All right, welcome to the award-winning Mad Radio Show with John and Sam. We are broadcasting live on Streamlabs, and today we have a very special guest. Sam, introduce him, and because I'm going to give you the honors, I'm honored to have him on our show.
Yeah, absolutely. We're winding down Police Week, and there's so much going on in the news every single day. You hear about another officer, being critically injured or unfortunately killed in the line of duty. And that doesn't include the number of first responders that continue to complete suicide. And this today's show, just like every show, is important. And so I just want to start off by talking about a cop's life, because a cop's life is about a midnight call that brings you to a grandmother battered to death in her bed while three punks go running and laughing through the night. A cop's life is about the man in the ninja outfit who absorbs a full magazine of hollow point bullets and still raises his gun to kill you. A cop's life is about the honor student, the pride and hope of his family hanging from a speaker wire, or the baby who dies in your arms, or the people who think you're a hero or the devil. In this powerful collection of tales from the front lines, Las Vegas Police Lieutenant Randy Sutton goes beyond the neon into the dark corners of society, putting us into the driver's seat of his cruiser in a job that ricochets from moments of sheer terror to coffee-fueled boredom, with stops on the way at every conceivable act of human folly and depravity. With a poet's touch and the unflinching realism of a crime scene photograph, A Cop's Life is the ultimate depiction of the hardest job there is. Randy, welcome to Mad Radio. It is awesome to have you. You are 34 years in law enforcement. You're nationally known media commentator on law enforcement issues. You're the founder of the Wounded Blue, which is the national assistance and support organization for injured and disabled law enforcement officers. And you have written 3 books. I just read A Cop's Life, True Blue to Protect and Serve. You got Policing with Honor. And you also have Power of Legacy. You're the recipient. You're recognized by the President of the United States, receiving the Points of Light Award. Sorry, we're getting some feedback. Can somebody turn their speaker mic down? And so you have the Points of Light Award, and I could just go on and on. You have a popular podcast, live talk radio show called Blue Lives Radio, the voice of American law enforcement. We're going to dive right in, because when I read those quotes, it sent chills, because that's it. That's it. So tell us about you. How did Randy go from Las Vegas? Well, you have a story before you got to Las Vegas. So New Jersey to Las Vegas to what you're doing now.
Right. Well, thanks for having me, you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show and talk about my favorite topic, which is American law enforcement. So I've had a great career. I've had a great professional life. Started out as the youngest police officer in the state of New Jersey. I was hired at 19, and at that time they had just changed the age of majority from 21 to 18. And I snuck in under the wire and became a cop in a small community of Princeton, New Jersey, and spent 10 years as a police officer there. It was like I said, a small town where the university is, and I got a little bored. All right, no, I got a lot bored, and decided I needed more action, and wound up choosing Las Vegas, and came back out here. And after I was halfway to retirement, I served 10 years with Princeton, and then realized that I'd go crazy if I stayed another 10 years. So picked up my stuff and just joined the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I had to start all over again as a rookie, go through the academy again, which I can assure you was humiliating, but a lot of fun. And I never looked back. I had a phenomenal career. I spent 24 years with Las Vegas Metro PD and retired as a field lieutenant. I spent the last portion of my career as a graveyard lieutenant, and in Vegas, graveyard is the action shift. So I had a ball, and along that way, I've done a few other things. If you remember the TV show Cops, I was one of the most featured officer on that show. I was on in 1989, which I'm really dating myself, I know.
Okay.
As a patrol officer, then again in 94 as a sergeant, 96 as a sergeant, and been in a few movies. If you'll remember the movie Casino, I was had a pretty decent part in that, playing a cop named Randy.
Wow, that's original.
I know. Was in Fools Rush In with Salma Hayek. I was in Miss Congeniality 2 with Sandra Bullock. A few other movies, a few other TV shows along the way. I'm still acting, believe it or not. I was just in a film released last year called Wish Man, the true story of the man who created the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Frank Dukowitz, who was a personal friend of mine and also a true American hero. And the story of his life is on this film, Wish Man, which is on Netflix right now. Beautiful film.
Wow.
And unfortunately, we lost Frank in December. So, that was my last film that I did. Still doing some acting. Written a few books. Wrote my first book was called True Blue, Police Stories by Those Who Have Lived Them. And I wrote that book actually when I didn't intend to be a writer. I didn't intend to be an actor either. But through a few, I love trying something new and different. When the World Trade Center was attacked, and it was the deadliest day in law enforcement history, and I was a cop in Vegas at the time, and I was so frustrated not being able to help the officers in New York that I got this idea to put a book together of stories. I had written a story that was a very it was a true story about saving the life of a little baby who'd been shot in a drive-by shooting a few years before I put this book together. And I wrote this story, and I said to myself, every cop I know has a story that was very impactful. And so I said, I'm gonna put a book together of cop stories. And that's what True Blue, Police Stories by Those Who Have Lived Them. I put this book together, donated every penny of the royalties to the Widows and Orphans Fund for the cops who were killed in 9/11, for the Port Authority and NYPD. And that began my writer's career. I wound up have written 4 books total. And so I've done a few other things along the way besides just being a police officer. And all of that played a role and is still playing a role in what I'm doing today as a law enforcement commentator and the founder of an organization that helps injured and disabled officers all over this country. It's called the Wounded Blue. So that's in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well,
I do have one question. How does a cop from Princeton, New Jersey, find himself in the heart of Las Vegas? With all the
he
places
wanted the action, man. Princeton's a little slow,
jump over the river to New York, or Detroit. You want action,
There is a story about how I wound up here in Vegas.
Okay,
and the story is, I had made the decision that I was going to leave. That I was going to leave Princeton. Like I said, I was halfway to retirement, so it was a tough decision to make. I was at top of my pay grade. I was a detective, and I enjoyed it. I really loved being a cop, but I was just bored. and I knew that there was something I wanted more action. So I went and I was recruited by, I'm not going to give the name of the city, but a city in Florida that I thought would be a fun place to work. And I went down, tested, and they let me ride along for a few shifts. And what I saw didn't impress me, as far as I wasn't going to make that career change, because there were a few issues that I saw that I didn't want to get involved in. So I was telling the story about my experience with that police department at a detectives meeting, and everybody was laughing about it. And after the meeting, a couple FBI agents came up to me and said, if you're looking for a really good department that there's a lot of action and it's a really cool place to work, Vegas Metro PD is hiring. And that did it. I came out to Las Vegas. It was in 1986, so it was right at the beginning of the real boom years. And because literally 5,000 people a month were moving in here for years. And started over. I had to go through the academy again, and I never looked back. Though it was the best decision I ever made. Tough decision, but the best decision I ever made.
Now, when you founded the Wounded Blue, looking at it, you guys can go online, thewoundedblue.org, and your board of directors is incredible. Bernie Carrick is on there. You do a lot of stuff. What's the personal story for you of how this came about and the commitment to care for our injured and disabled law enforcement officers in the U.S.?
Well, once again, I mean, this is not. I never saw myself running a charitable organization. It wasn't ever in my radar. When I was a cop, and I didn't expect to retire when I did. Even though I had a total of almost 34 years as a police officer, I only had 24 on with Las Vegas PD, and it's fully anticipated doing a full 30. Mm-hmm. But the fates had something else in store for me, and that was I suffered a stroke in my police car, and it was the most frightening moment of my life, you guys. It was a lot. I was literally on the Las Vegas Strip, 2:30 in the morning. And I was a lieutenant. I was a field lieutenant, and I was the watch commander of that evening. And whenever I was watch commander, I would take one of my patrol officers with me on patrol so that I could get to know my people. Las Vegas Metro is a big police department, and I had for a shift I had over 125 people, working for me. So I wanted to get to know them. So whenever I was watch commander, I would take an officer with me so they could, we could get to know each other. I could get my finger on the pulse of what's going on in my shift. And also they could get to see their lieutenant actually knew how to do some police work. Right. So on this particular night, I was on patrol, had a young officer with me, and literally driving down Las Vegas Boulevard, I felt my brain slowing down and knew immediately that I was having a stroke, and stopped the police car in the middle of the street, told my rookie officer, I said, get me help, I'm having a stroke. And if he's looking at me like, is this part of the test?
Yeah.
Is lieutenant screwing with me? And then he realized, it wasn't. And I got out of the car to go around to the passenger side in case he needed to get me to the hospital. And I lost the ability to speak. I was speaking gibberish. And I knew I was speaking gibberish. I knew what I was trying to say, but that's not what was coming out of my mouth. And I lost the ability to move and speak altogether. I crumpled to the pavement. And it was literally the most frightening moment of my life. And I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of living like that. Yeah. And once again, the angel that's been on my shoulder for most of my career was with me again that night. And the clot went through my brain. It did minimal amount of damage. But it ended my career. That was my last night as a working cop. And then something happened that I never expected. And that was that my own department turned its back on me and refused to pay my medical bills. They knew they had to, but they just didn't do it. And I never expected that. They ruined my credit. I had bill collectors knocking on my door. I go to see my sheriff, who was a guy who I worked with for 23 years. And I said, Sheriff, how do you treat me like this? And he looked at me right in the eye and said, Randy, this isn't personal. It's just business.
Yeah, like the mafia.
And I had to go to court to get them to pay my medical bills. And it was a year of stress out of my life. I mean, it was incredibly stressful. And luckily I could retire so I could feed myself while I was fighting them. So this takes place. I'm completely shocked that this is the way they treat me, but I thought it was just me. Well, because of all the things that I just told you, writing books, being, in movies and on television and such, I had a pretty good presence out in the law enforcement community. I was a trainer of cops all over the nation. I wrote a presentation called "Policing with Honor: How to Survive Your Career Ethically as well as physically and emotionally," and I taught that all over the country. So I had a lot of people who knew who I was, and so this was at the social media was really becoming a major force at that time. And suddenly I find myself getting messages from cops all over the country with these heartbreaking messages. Randy, I knew you don't know me, but I was shot in the line of duty. My chief never came to visit me in the hospital. They're not paying my medical bills. I feel abandoned. I feel alone. And not one or two, hundreds of police officers from across this country were reaching out to me, a guy who couldn't do anything for them just because I was visible. They didn't know where to turn. And I thought, wait a minute, hold on a second. There's got to be a resource for these men and women. There's got to be an organization that helps these people. And much to my surprise, much to my shock, there was no national resource to help these men and women. And here's the final straw. So I was looking for resources for these guys and these women. And then I get a message from a young cop up in South Dakota. And he sends me a message. I don't know the kid. And he says, "Look, I know you don't know me, Lieutenant, but I had 3 years on the job, small town, married, I have several kids. I was in a fight with a suspect. He yanked my arms out of their sockets and then beat my head against the pavement. And they put me on temporary disability. That means I lost a third of my pay. My health care is so bad that my wife had to quit her job to take care of me because I can't feed myself. And we have no money we can't even afford diapers for our children. And we have to go to the church to beg." And that did it for me. It angered me so much that I said no police officer in this country should ever have to beg for food or to be able to put diapers on their kids after they sacrificed so much for their communities. And that was really the moment that the Wounded Blue was born. And it took a number of years actually to put the planning together, to get enough resources, to get enough money to launch the Wounded Blue. And we actually just passed our 2-year mark. We actually launched in Police Week of 2019 in Washington, D.C. at Police Week. So we've been actually operational for 2 years, and we've helped more than 9,000 law enforcement officers across the United States.
That's amazing. I may have missed this, Randy. When did you have the stroke? What year?
2010, I retired.
See, and me and Sam talk about this all the time regarding the different line of duty injuries. We have the heart bill, we have the lung bill, we have all these bills. So, like with a clot, and I'll tell you, I retired from NYPD for the same exact reason. My body threw a clot, and I ended up getting a medical disability, 3/4, but I was lucky. Now, if that clot would have went to your heart instead of your brain, do you think you would have been covered under the heart bill if you had a heart attack?
I was covered under the heart bill. We determined that it was a heart problem that did it. In fact, 4 weeks ago, I still suffer from that same heart condition. 4 weeks ago, that same angel that's been hanging out with me all these years saved me again. I went in for a routine test, and the doctor literally said, "Randy, you're going to be dead within a week. We have to operate on you right now." They wound up doing quadruple bypass surgery just 4 weeks ago. So I'm back.
Great.
Not bad for a guy just getting out of the hospital, right?
No, you look good. But that's my issue is you had to fight for that.
Yeah, they actually right. I had it took a year to battle them. Now they knew they had to pay.
Right.
They knew that I was covered, but they were playing this game that I have since found out is played all the time with cops' lives around the country. And that game is the waiting game. Let's not pay and hope that they either give up or die.
Right.
And this is one of the great tragedies that's facing American cops. And most don't know. I had no idea that this could possibly happen. And I was a cop with 34 years experience. Our officers right now don't know that they may face this issue. And that's one of the reasons that this organization is so important. We help through, we call it our SEAL approach: support, education, assistance, and legislation. So we look at this problem as a whole, but the most important thing that we do, every single one of those communications that I got from those officers from around the country was, "I feel abandoned. I feel alone." And so our motto is never forgotten, never alone. And so what we do is so critical. Our main mission is providing peer support for injured and disabled officers, whether that injury is physical or psychological or emotional. Because we all know, you guys been through this too. There's no doubt in my mind that your lives have been affected. You've lost friends to suicide. You've lost comrades, and post-traumatic stress injury is as real as a bullet. So we recognize that, and I have a team of officers that are some of the most amazing men and women you will ever meet. My cops are all over the country. They're all trained, certified peer counselors. Every single one of them has been shot or stabbed or beaten or run over. Everybody's been screwed up and everybody's been screwed over. And these men and women still continue to serve their brothers and sisters, just in a different capacity, in the capacity of a caring peer that can help guide them through these traumatic times in their lives. And that's what the Wounded Blue, that's the main mission of the Wounded Blue.
Wow. It is, you brought up a lot just in that comment that you made, because when you realize, John and I talk all the time about this thin blue line, like we got your back, we got your six. That's the motto there. And when something like this happens, whether it be an officer complete suicide because of stress of the job and the family's left out in the cold, or in this case, injuries and they're left out in the cold, it's like I scratch my head, because it's like, wait a second, the disconnect is it's huge. And when you start playing games with people's lives, how do you reach out and really I don't know any other way to call it, but outright anger. Like the officers must want to like get their hands around. You are a lieutenant, the supervisor's neck, the chief. They want to go to the press. They want to really lash out against the department. And then on the other hand, you have these officers who come back and like, hey, I want to do peer support. Like, how do you navigate that? How do you is there a forgiveness process or what?
Yeah, that's you're absolutely right. And what makes the Wounded Blue so unique is that my peer team, and these are some guys. Some are still working as cops. Some have been able to come back from their injuries, but most have been severely injured and can't work any longer. So, but they want to continue to serve, which is an incredible it's incredible devotion.
Right.
And so I couldn't be prouder of this group of men and women. Now we also have spouses of some of these injured and disabled officers, because that's a whole nother avenue of people that need us, because the spouses and the families of an officer, when they become injured, they're victimized too, and they don't know how to navigate it. They don't know how to deal with the traumatizing injury of someone that they love. So we now also provide peer support for spouses of injured and disabled officers. So, but what makes us unique is that we don't owe allegiance to any police agency. We don't work for the chiefs. We don't work for the sheriffs. We work only for the officer who is facing an issue, and we are their peer support. And yet, this has been one of the issues, and this is why every time I can talk about the Wounded Blue, I do, is getting people to know that we exist, so that they know we're here to help. And also, police agencies, we are a resource for them. And recently, I can't mention, because everything we do is very confidential, but we have been brought in on when there's been some seriously tragic incidents, especially in some small communities where they don't have the expertise, or
right,
the officers prefer to have help from outside because of trust issues with their own agencies.
Yeah, the confidentiality. Yeah,
right. And that's what makes us really, really unique. And I applaud those chiefs and sheriffs that understand this and say, you know what, Wounded Blue, can you come out and spend a couple days with my people? And then we literally fly our teams into wherever they need to go if they can be of help.
See, and what you just said. There are chiefs out there that will do that, but then there are some, and I would say probably, and I hate to say the majority of the departments out there, but I'm going to say it: the majority of the departments out there feel that when an organization comes in, you're stepping on my toes. You guys should be better off let alone, and that's why organizations like the Wounded Blue are not spoken about as a normal outlet for our officers. And it's up to the chiefs, it's up to the commissioners, it's up to the politicians to speak this about organizations such as yours, Randy, because there are too many people out there having a pissing contest on who the, we don't want outside agencies. But, chiefs got to recognize that, hey, sometimes an outside agency is best for our officers. And we're not looking at what's best for our officers.
Exactly. You hit it right on the head. And you're right. There's a lot of really good leaders out there that recognize that. And there's a lot of really bad leaders out there that are so concerned with their own ego or, their own power that they refuse to acknowledge that maybe somebody can do it differently and maybe a good resource. We're non-threatening. We don't want to take over anybody's responsibilities. We don't want. All we want to do is help. That's all we give a good goddamn about. We don't care about the politics. We don't. All we care about is the cops.
Well, let me ask something. You've been in existence for 2 years,
Right.
which is a substantial time. You've grown pretty big. I mean, you have a lot of great programs. After going through your website, you have amazing programs that you can offer our officers. Have you ever been invited to a police academy to discuss these options for our officers?
No. No. The answer to that is no.
Yeah.
And but now that being said, I'm getting more and more invitations to speak to law enforcement groups. I told you our SEAL approach, and education was one of them. So we put a presentation together to give to police agencies and also police organizations, fraternal order of police, PBAs, police unions, police organizations. We give a presentation called Walking with the Wounded. And it's a presentation that we show a documentary film that we produced. It was produced by a retired Metro Police sergeant who's a great filmmaker. And then we talk about all of these issues that you and I we've just been discussing, and talk about the leadership, about the responsibilities. Here's the reality. Remember, that there's 18,000 different police agencies in this country, and 80% of them have less than 100 cops, right? So many of these agencies have never had to deal with a catastrophic injury of a police officer. They don't know how to deal with it. They're unprepared for it. So we advocate, be prepared before this happens. So you know how to deal with it. You know how to deal with somebody compassionately. You know that you want to assign someone in command staff to call the officer on a regular basis and just ask about how they're doing. Because just a phone call from the assistant chief or from somebody up in command staff can mean the difference between post-traumatic stress injury and just healing.
Oh yeah.
If you think you're abandoned, you think your department doesn't give a good goddamn about you, that in and of itself can lead to to emotional trauma. So
for sure.
And my co-instructor in this is a retired Pennsylvania Pennsylvania State Police Sergeant named Bob Bemis. And Bob's story of survival is amazing. He was stopping at a scene where a vehicle was on fire, stopped to help, even though he was off duty, but he had his troop car. A truck hit the back of his troop car, which then ran him over. He's got significant injuries, and his story of survival is amazing. And the two of us do this presentation together. He's also a member of the peer team. He's I wish I could introduce the entire peer team to you.
Well, one day, why don't you do that? We'll get your whole peer team on Mad Radio, and you can introduce them all. Bring them all on.
We can make that happen. I feel like we need to give credit where credit is due, because Randy, for those chiefs and those administrations that step up, that do take a proactive approach, with us being here at Mad Radio, John and I living in Texas now, today, actually it was last night, it was the plan in Texas, because we've had so many DPS troopers shot through a windshield. The AG, the Attorney General Ken Paxton, announced last night at Memorial service in Austin that every vehicle will now be fitted with bullet-resistant glass.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm glad you told me that. I had not heard that.
Yeah, the story just broke this morning, and it was the spate of our troopers being injured. I mean, John, I don't know about you, but it's like it just was like every day for a week, another trooper. And then the big city police officers, but this was something I don't know if anybody expected it, but thank you, Ken Paxton, Attorney General Paxton, for doing this.
I was a cop back in the early '90s, the height of the crack era.
They didn't have windshields, right?
No, we ran our police car with our feet. But the height of the crack era. I mean, New York was a shambles. It was before Rudy Giuliani. It was under the David Dinkins administration, and crime was rampant, right? But I've never heard of so many ambushes on officers throughout the country in the 90s and in the early 2000s as I'm hearing now. It seems like every single day we turn on the news, there is a cop somewhere in the more than one being ambushed, assaulted, or shot. And I tell you, the 90s were probably the most dangerous times to live, the 80s and the 90s. And we don't hear that. But you know what the problem is? It's the current narrative in the nation. There's no accountability for our criminals, and everybody thinks they can assault a police officer, shoot at a police officer, and get away with it, or they're looking at a $37 million payday if their crackhead son gets killed. And that's the reality of it. We're looking at these departments are in the woke state where they're just cutting checks for everybody who gets arrested.
Yeah,
so
and not
it's a payday.
Yes. And you know who else? You know who else stepped up? You got to give credit to Governor DeSantis in Florida. They passed legislation protecting law enforcement officers throughout the entire state. Enhanced sentences if you're a knucklehead that travels into Florida to participate in a riot. Enhanced sentences. I mean, there are states that are drawing a line in the sand, and like you said, Randy, let's give credit where credit is due, because we're fed up. We're fed up.
Absolutely, and you're right. You're seeing leadership in some places now starting to say enough is enough. But it's got it. Listen, the narrative of systemic police racism has been put forth now for years by politically driven, agenda-driven politicians, by activists, by attorneys who are getting rich through race baiting. It's an industry. It's truly an industry, and until we can turn the narrative around, which is not happening yet, we're going to be facing, these officers who are currently working are going to be facing more and more danger, not just the physical danger. On my radio show today that I taped, Blue Lives Radio, the voice of American law enforcement on the America Out Loud network, it's a special on the war on cops. And when I talk about the war on cops, of course, the physical aspect is part of it. The attacks that you just mentioned literally, I've never, ever seen more police officers who have been shot in the line of duty than we are seeing just in the last couple weeks.
Yes.
I mean, literally, we're seeing, in some cases, we've seen 4, 6 a day. Shot. So we're seeing this, but the war on cops is much more insidious because it encompasses a lot of other aspects, such as the political aspects. I mean, let's look at last week was Police Week. You guys have probably been to Washington, D.C. You've probably been to see the monument where more than 22,000 names are carved on the monument of every single law enforcement officer killed in the line of duty. It is a sacred ground for police. And Police Week is when the nation is supposed to honor those sacrifices. Well, I've never seen this before. Biden in his
Oh, you can't say his name on our show. No, we'll get canceled.
I know where you're going with this.
We know where you're going. Bring it. Yeah, bring it.
The present occupant of the White House came out when he's supposed to be talking about the service and sacrifice of the cops. He blames the cops.
Yeah.
He accuses the police. And for the first time in history, they didn't put the flags at
half mast.
And Megan, heads up to Megan, one of our loyal listeners, she pointed out that last year the White House was lit up in blue.
Yep.
Not this year.
Yep. No. And
Megan, yep.
So that's part of the war on cops. The media, the literal attacks on law enforcement, the spreading of lies, the spreading of disinformation, hands up, don't shoot. One of the greatest misperceptions in history was orchestrated by the media.
Yeah.
Yep. Now I got to ask both of you a question. As you, Randy, being a safety and a criminal expert, and Sam, you being a firearms instructor and marksman, I saw on TV the other day showing, I forgot which police department it was, but they had the new silhouettes out for non-lethal shots. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I almost fell off the couch because the instructor that was teaching this course to the cadets was so happy that we were bringing this non-lethal shooting to shoot in the leg and to shoot in the arm, and the silhouette was color-coded. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, can I get your opinions on this?
I'm surprised it wasn't color-coded in the rainbow colors. Yeah, well, okay.
It is at the range that I instruct at. It's just a game, though. So
the chief where this is being trained at, this chief is one of the biggest goofballs I've seen. When he used to be the president of the IACP, the largest, most influential leadership organization for law enforcement in the nation. And when he was the president, it was another time of unprecedented attacks on law enforcement. And instead of addressing that, he decided to apologize on behalf of the police for incidents that happened 100 years ago. I watched it and I cringed. This is the kind of leadership. So this goofball is now telling his cops and training them in shooting at extremities or whatever nonsense. Yeah. And all he's doing is setting his officers up to die and to fail.
But on a legal aspect, if you're trained, now if they're giving you this training to shoot in the leg, to shoot in the arm, all this non-lethal stuff, what could say some attorney when an officer does end up getting into a shooting and shoots to kill? How is that?
You mean shoots to stop the threat?
Right. You would train to shoot stop the threat.
Yeah.
And kills the suspect.
Right.
Of course. That you may as well just start writing the checks because you have now placed every one of your cops in legal jeopardy by doing this insane, I call it utopian police training. Because this chief obviously believes in unicorns and rainbows. It probably rides his unicorn to the office. At least the horn of the unicorn.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. The horn firmly placed somewhere as he rides.
And that worries the hell out of me, that a police chief could even make his department start taking these classes and training his recruits, that because it's going to spill over. Now the media is going to grab a hold of it and say, well, why can't this department do it? Why can't that department do it?
Exactly. And that's exactly what that chief is thinking, is he's going to be the leader. He's going to put this out there, and he's going to get headlines, which he did. Now, probably doesn't care that he's probably one of the most despised human beings in police culture at this moment. And I'm sure those poor officers that are working for him just got to be hating life, hating life.
Well, hey, if anybody officer that's listening, we got great departments here in Texas, and they are all hiring. But it's opening an entire can of worms, from a legal aspect, with the trickle down into controlled tactics. Because in the academies, you're taught less than lethal. Okay, so when you're using your baton, let's just say, okay, we have rules, regulations, procedures. This is where you do not strike with a baton, because the rate of injury is higher, and so it's less than lethal. You're not going out to use it to inflict serious bodily injury or death. Okay,
right.
You're there. It's a control tactic. It's a tool. So if you take this stupidest, shoot him in the leg training, shoot him in the arm, I don't even know what to call it, less than lethal. If you shoot somebody in the leg, has anybody heard of a femoral artery? Hello? Yeah. You can still die. By the way, just throwing out some science. But nobody wants to believe in science or facts anymore. So, there were times where even in training, and we're not using the real baton in training, we're using something that still hurts like what if you get hit in between the pads. But you wouldn't mean to strike somebody, here, or you'd get him in the head. This is the heat of the battle. And in every law enforcement agency that I visited, certainly in the Secret Service, you practice like you play. It's not right. Kind of. It's 0 to 100 in a second. It's not 50. Yeah. You're not going 50%. You're not going 30%. This isn't track practice. You fight to survive. And so when you practice that way, you survive on the street. It's the most incredibly ludicrous thing I have ever heard. I did not see that, so I'm going to look up the targets after the show. But do you see how it's going to trickle down right into the less than lethal? I mean, shoot, take the tasers and throw them in the toilet. They're going to disappear altogether.
Oh, I definitely see that there's going to be there'll be the goofballs in city government to say, well, wait a minute, that chief is a very progressive chief, and we need to do what that chief does. And of course, police chiefs around the country, they have a very limited lifespan of careers, because any police chief that's got the guts to stand up for himself, when they have a mayor like Ted Wheeler or some such other moron, they just get fired.
Yep.
Right. You either toe the line or toe the line, or you get fired. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on these chiefs. Luckily, the sheriffs, they usually have a much greater career expectancy, because when they get elected, you got to wait 4 years, so they can't get fired.
Right.
But when we're talking about this use of force, police use of force is the most misunderstood topic in the public's eye. Yeah. They don't, because they've never really been educated, and some of that fault lies with us, because they don't really understand police use of force, and it's never been. Where do people get use of force ideas from? The movies.
Movies and television.
Right. Shoot him in the leg. Oh, yeah. Oh, Wyatt Earp. Yeah. No, but that people actually, that's where they get their information from. So we as law enforcement have not really been very proactive in explaining use of force. And by the time it happens, you're seeing 15 seconds of a video of a police encounter where they're kicking somebody's ass. And you're not seeing anything that leads up to it. You're not seeing why they shot him. All you're seeing is a very disturbing piece of video. And so it's too late by then. It's too late. People will make up their minds because the insane propaganda that has been pushed their way. And even when you look at police training, I was a police trainer for years. One of the jobs I had with Las Vegas, which is the 9th largest department in the country, was I was in charge of advanced training for the department. So I got to see and I got to participate in training from all kinds of different perspectives. And the reality is this: when police departments have budgets and they're defunded, what's the first thing they cut out?
Training.
So
Yeah.
now we're going to send cops out without the proper training, and then when they screw up, we're going to prosecute them.
Right.
So it's a very slippery slope. But let me while we're on this topic, I want to tell you about something that the Wounded Blue is doing to help in this regard. And then October is for any officers who are current officers, especially, but also this will also be for retired cops. We're putting on a 3-day conference in Las Vegas, the end of October, called the Law Enforcement Survival Summit. Wow. And I'm really, really, really proud of this because we are putting on some of the best law enforcement presenters in the country to teach our young officers. They don't have to be young officers. I shouldn't say that. Any police officer how to survive physically and tactically. You probably know a couple of my instructors, Dave Smith and Betsy Smith. He used to be known as Buck Savage back in the day. Two of the most highly qualified street survival tactical police officers in the nation. They're going to be presenting on the winning mind and how to prepare yourself physically and emotionally to survive. Dr. Kevin Gilmartin, who wrote the most well-read police book in history, Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. He's going to be presenting legal survival, family survival. Who else is suffering when their officer is suffering? The families. This is going to be one of the most critically important training conferences ever to be held. So keep your eye on thewoundedblue.org when we announce it here shortly. And we expect this to be sold out very, very quickly.
Oh, so, you're not going to give me the date so I can put it in the stream?
October 28th, 29th, and 30th. And
we may have to come to Vegas.
In Vegas.
Yeah. We may have to come to Vegas.
At the fabulous Ahern Hotel, which is a brand new boutique hotel. But on the night of the 30th, anybody who supports law enforcement and law enforcement officers are invited to the Brothers in Blue Bash, the largest celebration of law enforcement unity and pride in America here in Vegas. And you can actually go on Facebook right now and look at Brothers in Blue Bash and get your tickets right now. Great discounted rates at the hotel, right at the Ahern Hotel. This is going to be an amazing event. The Brothers in Blue Bash in Las Vegas.
Let me ask you this.
I expect you two to be there. You two will be there.
We'll definitely talk about like Randy, you and I spoke briefly about maybe doing a live broadcast out there and featuring some people, and we'll definitely talk. John, I'm just looking at the clock.
Well, I just wanted to bring up one more thing because I wanted Randy's insight on it. When we talked about the prosecution of our officers, let's talk about qualified indemnity that's now going
Immunity.
on.
Yeah.
Immunity, sorry, immunity. When we talk about New York being progressive and this department now being progressive in the shooting aspect,
All over the country.
where does that place our officers now? You know, with New York being a 35,000 but dwindling, but 35,000 member police force, we're looking at some big civil suits coming down the pike, don't you think?
Oh man, this whole woke philosophy where we're going to punish the police in one city for something that an officer did in another city, it's so absurd, it's insane. And yet these woke politicians jump on these bandwagons and scream and yell and like they know what they're talking about. They're idiots. And what they're doing is they're putting the lives of police officers in danger. They're putting the families of these officers in danger. They are looking at destroying their not only the physical dangers that they're facing, but their financial danger as well. They're talking about taking away protections that were put in place for a very good reason. Mm-hmm. And when you see what these politicians are doing, they're not taking away qualified immunity from themselves, you'll notice.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Just from the people who are actually putting their lives on the line for their communities. So yeah, I mean this is part of the war on cops. Yeah. That is part of the war on cops. And these officers, so now we're seeing the inevitable. We're seeing cops leaving in droves. NYPD, of course, is hemorrhaging cops.
Yeah,
it's like Portland and Seattle and Minneapolis, hemorrhaging
Chicago,
cops.
Yeah.
And then you're seeing the recruitment dwindling to a trickle. So what are agencies doing? And we've seen this before. This is where we're so stupid. We're not following history. What happens when we decide we have to get more people in because of whatever?
Lower the standards.
Lower the standards.
Yep.
Exactly. And we've seen this time and time again. We've seen it. We saw it in New York. We saw it in Miami. These caused the greatest corruption issues in law enforcement history when you lower the standards. But this is part of the self-fulfilling prophecy that politicians are creating, because by doing this, they are creating the environment that they want. They will get less qualified people. They will see more misconduct because of it, and then they'll say, "You see."
Yeah. Yep.
So this is very, very insidious.
It's all playing into their hand.
Yeah.
But on a better note, I want to get off that for 1 second, because there is one thing that I do want you to touch on that I hold near and dear to my heart, and I know Sam does as well, is your Canine program through the
puppies.
Man, you know what? They're French bulldogs.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I went onto your site and I automatically fell in love right there. And I'm like, I want one of those dogs.
Yeah, what we found, it actually, we didn't intend to do this, but it fell in our laps. A real cool veterinarian here in Vegas, who is the person that all the French bulldog breeders go to, came to us, and this guy he's also a reserve officer, and says, when French bulldogs are bred, they only breed them a couple times, and then these dogs have a lot of intrinsic emotional support type of capabilities, and they're young. They only, like I said, they only breed them a couple times, right. And then they want to find homes for them, and so we began this program called our Canine Companion Program. And when these dogs come available after they're bred a couple times, then we want to find them homes, forever homes, that they can provide emotional support for these officers. Now, remember, these are not service dogs per se.
Right.
Service dogs are very highly trained
Right.
animals that are bred, that are trained. But what they do is they have, and I've seen this with my own eyes.
Yeah.
I've seen the way people, especially injured officers, the way they connect with these beautiful animals who seem to be able to understand when someone is suffering. And simply by being there and cuddling up and nuzzling, it brings comfort. It brings joy. So that's one of the things that we do is we try and match when these dogs are available, we match them with officers that we are aware of, and it solves two problems. It's wonderful for the dog who gets a forever home that's full of love, and it's great for the cop.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
That is wonderful.
But here's another thing that we do because, like I said, my peer team members, they're called peer advocate support team members, because not only do they provide peer support, we try to become problem solvers. So if one of the people that we're dealing with, an officer in this particular location, what they were injured or they've had emotional issues, and something that they've been unable to do because of their physical limitations is maybe go fishing. We work with organizations to help make these things come true. And so we look at every single officer that we help in the unique light of their own predicament. And then we try to figure out a way to help those officers in any way that we can. So we understand that everybody's unique, and anything that we can do to help, we will. One of the biggest problems that we've had, and it's very disconcerting for me, is raising money. We've had the devil's own time trying to raise money. I can't tell you how many companies that I sat in front of where they told me, Randy, we really love what you're doing, but we can't put our name on a police charity.
Right.
It's been really, really disappointing. We actually get this. I'm not going to say that the city, but we were approached to do a really cool sporting event that was going to bring attention and raise a lot of money for the organization. And we were dealing with the city, and they loved the idea of what was. Now, we didn't come up with this idea. A sports figure came up with this idea, and then went to the city and said, we want to put this on. And they said, we love it. That's great. Awesome. And then I flew out and met with this person who was putting this together. We met with the Chamber of Commerce who were loving it. It's going to bring people to the city. It was going to bring, awareness to the sport. Everything was positive. And then it was all planned. I left, we went to our homes, and then I get a call from the guy who's putting it together, and he says, I can't, he said, I don't even know how to tell you this. He says, we got a call from the head of the Chamber of Commerce who said, if you're going to donate the money to this police charity, you're not invited to our city.
Oh my God.
True story.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute. You know what? Screw it. Screw you, Nashville. We'll never come there now.
Wow, that doesn't surprise me. It's the whole state is the whole state makes you scratch your head every day. I mean, the left turn and the right turn. I mean, it's a mess. No, but yeah, screw them. Hopefully officers from that area will be watching. Again, get the heck out of Dodge because you got no support from your own community all the way up. Move. Texas, welcome. If you got the right politics, come to Texas. We got great departments hiring. And
the governor of South Dakota welcomes all police officers if you want to go up to South Dakota or Texas. But she welcomes everybody from Seattle and Portland and all those groups over there. She'll hire you on the spot as well.
Absolutely. Randy, we can't thank you enough for your time. We're over time again. We could keep going with this. We definitely want to have you and your peer support advocates on another time to do a show geared towards that specific topic if you'd like to do that. You guys heard you have so many programs going on. If you didn't hear about Randy's radio show, okay? AmericaOutloud.com. They are doing phenomenal things. You can log on to that network and find like scientists that like know science, that are not caught up in all of the politics. You can learn so much. Listen to Randy's show, Blue Lives Radio. Again, it's America Out Loud.
It's on iTunes. It's on iHeartRadio. It's heard live talk radio. But all the platforms have it. Blue Lives Radio. And if you want to contact me on Facebook under the Voice of American Law Enforcement, or Randy at thewoundedblue.org. If you want to get involved in the organization, if you want to perhaps volunteer, if you want to support the organization, you want to become a sponsor for one of our events, connect with me, Randy at thewoundedblue.org. I am easy to find. And you probably didn't have any trouble at all finding me, did you guys?
Not at all.
We did not. I think we found each other. Were we on like a LinkedIn stream or something? I don't know, Randy. You and I, we exchanged things, or I saw your comment, you saw mine. The Mad Radio was there. It's like, let's do this thing. It was really cool. Hey, John and I, when we wrap up the show, we always ask our guests, if there's one message to first responders out there from you, Randy, to them, what would it be?
You are not alone. You are not forgotten.
Well, Randy, that's perfect. And I want to give you a personal invite to Texas. I don't know if you followed hashtag Walk the Bridge.
Hashtag what?
Hashtag Walk the Bridge.
No.
It's hashtag Walk the Bridge. What we do every month, me and Sam, along with most of the community, we walk a bridge for the 22 veterans and our law enforcement who take their lives every day on a mental health aspect. We've had the bridge renamed to Heroes Memorial Bridge.
Oh.
We are building, and I can let this out now, Sam, because I got permission to do it. We are building a 22-acre park, memorial park, here in Texas. It's going to be the first in its nation, and it's going to honor those we lost to suicide. Police Week does not honor any of the families or any of the police officers that have taken their lives due to post-traumatic stress. Texas will be the first in its nation to have a park dedicated to our first responders who have lost their lives. And I personally invite Wounded Blue to come down September 26th and be part of that groundbreaking ceremony.
We'll be there.
Fantastic, brother.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And you're buying me a beer.
I'll buy you.
Hey, I'll buy 3. So thank you again, Randy, so much for coming on. We're definitely going to have you and your team back for sure. Yeah. And guys, there's a lot of programs to check out. Visit thewoundedblue.org. It's been scrolling across the screen the entire broadcast here. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. Reach out.
Yes.
Randy, thank you so much for being here tonight.
My pleasure, you guys. Great to talk to you.
All right. Stay safe out there. God bless.
Take care.
Wow. I can't say enough. There is so much goodness and humanness out there.
Yep.
And the Wounded Blue is one of those fantastic organizations that show their human side. They care 1,000,000%. And I just feel completely honored that we were able to get Randy, who's like hugely busy, on the show tonight, and thank him so much for his time. Hey, if you guys are watching on Facebook, thank you so much, Facebook family. If you could jump on over to our YouTube channel, which you just go to YouTube, and then in the search at the top, type in Mad Radio Texas. Okay, the magic number is 200. We can actually name our own channel and do a lot of other cool things. So, we're newer on the YouTube thing. So if you could jump over there and follow us on YouTube, that's very much appreciated. And if you are part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. Jump on over to Facebook. And so when you go to facebook.com, you can search as well, and you can type in Making a Difference TX or Mad Radio, and you'll see the logo, and follow us there as well, so you never miss a show. Right. And if you want to support the show and a badge of honor, which is the organization that John and I run. I'm trying to work the banners here. Trying to do a lot here. So a badgeofhonor.com. We go into the departments and we work exclusively with first responders, completely confidential. And it's all about post-traumatic stress and suicide awareness, letting them know they are not alone and that there are places to reach out. Randy's organization will certainly be added to that list. Yep. So if you want to donate to the show or a badge of honor, you can go onto the website at badgeofhonor.com. At the top, you'll see Mad Radio /donate. We are a Texas domestic nonprofit right now. We are in the 501c3 holding pattern, if you will. We're waiting on that. But hey, if you're a Texas resident, so if you live in Texas, you can donate to Texas nonprofit right now. So every little bit counts. And we're going to get Randy's books. So after the show is over, if you're watching on Facebook, refresh, you can scroll up and you'll see all the books that we currently have on there. That's a great way to support. Go ahead and pick up a book that's there. We're going to put Randy's books on there as well. Folks, there are so many incredible. If you're a first responder, there are books that you must have. And Randy's books are those must have. John, you and I have a library of books. Kevin Gilmartin, who Randy mentioned, got his book. There's just so much. And so check it out there. And, until next week, thank you guys so much for tuning in again, for your support, for your love to all of the first responders out there. We love you. We're praying for you every day. And for those serving overseas to keep our country safe, we got your back. John, take us home.
Well, once again, what a great show. I want to thank Randy and his organization for what they do, how they keep raising awareness, which is wonderful. Wounded Blue, we'd like to bring here into Texas. We will spread the word because there are officers across the nation that need it. And I think we can help Randy and his organization do that. And if you read my Facebook posts every single day, remember, today is not the day to give up. And if you could be anything, please be kind. Sam, great show.
Great show. Take care, everybody.
Good night.